O'clock now, and so I will announce that this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees of Weatherford College. Today is Thursday, January 12th, 2023. It's 2:00 p.m. We're in the community room of the Emerging Technologies and Workforce Building, which is located at 225 College Park Drive, Weatherford, Parker County, Texas. We're here to consider and act on the posted agenda. We do have a quorum present, and this meeting is called to order. At this time, I will ask Mr. Baker to lead us in the invocation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Please bow with me if you will. Lord, we're thankful for another year. Thank you for bringing us back after a nice long break. Thank you for all the students you bring to us and our dedicated faculty and staff. But also this board, thank you for their time. Please be with them as they deliberate today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Join with me in the pledge as we stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Appreciate everybody being here today. We'll try to move through this agenda expeditiously. Ms. Worley, do we have any speakers lined up?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. How are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Very good. Move to agenda item number 3, President's Report. President Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of the Weatherford College Board of Trustees, I would like to give a few brief recognitions, employee notices, and an enrollment update. Recognitions. The prestigious Weatherford College Medical Diagnostic Sonography Program was recently contacted by the renowned Mayo Clinic regarding employment opportunities for WC students. The WC program was recently ranked #1 program in Texas. Congratulations to Weatherford College students Nikki Gianta and Tyler West Summerall, who qualified for the Texas 2-year College All-State Choir. Our fine arts programs continue to excel. And finally, congratulations to Dean Kathy Boswell for her team recently being awarded a $145,000 nursing shortage reduction grant from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. Dean Boswell is with us here today. Would you please stand for a round of applause? Dean Boswell, do you mind introducing your colleague there that you have with you?
This is where our money comes from. This is Dr. Marvella Starlin. She is the director of our associate degree nursing program.
And Dr. Starling will be making a presentation later today. Thank you so much. You all are doing great work in all of our allied health programs. Employee notices. DMAC Local requires the college president to provide the names of contract employees that have resigned since the last board meeting. Megan Horn, our acquisitions librarian, has resigned effective 1/9/23. We thank Megan for her service and wish her the very best in future endeavors. Enrollment update. The enrollment report as of Monday, January 9th, was 4,568 students compared to 4,248 students last year. That represents a 7.2% increase of 328 students. Weatherford College Wise County also is up with 333 students compared to 297 last year. That represents a 10.9% enrollment increase of 36 students. With enrollment ongoing, we anticipate strong final enrollment numbers for the spring 2023 semester. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the President's report.
Thank you, Dr. Farmer. Any questions or comments about President Farmer's report? If not, we'll move to agenda item number 4, consent agenda and financial reports. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes and look at the financial reports. Are there any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve agenda 4?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Motion second. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Thank you. That's approved. Move to agenda item number 5, consideration possible action order of general election for Board of Trustees, place 6, place 7, and special election for place 4. Mr. Baker.
Yes, sir, Chairman Smith. As you know, this year, the general election and the special election will be held on May the 6th, 2023. The general election is for the 6-year terms for place 6, held by Mr. Bailey, and place 7, held by Mrs. Morris. And a special election will be held for the unexpired term for place 4, held by Mr. Dowd. The first day to file for a place on the ballot in either election is Wednesday, January the 18th in the Kingsley Building. It is state law requiring the board to formally order the general and the special elections. You have an order of election in your packet, which will be posted online and on our bulletin board, and we just ask that you approve that order of election.
Okay, are there any questions or comments about that at this time? All right. Since state law requires the board to formally order the general and special elections, is there a motion to take that step and order the general and special elections on the dates that are outlined in the presentation? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, raise your right hand. That is ordered. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6, reports by President Farmer, A and B as posted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have been provided as item 6A, your academic and student services update prepared by Dr. T and Mr. Indy. Additionally, as was alluded to earlier, we have Dr. Starlin, our program director for the associate degree nursing evening cohorts, and we're very proud to have her with us today. She has a brief presentation that she will be sharing, but I really want to express my appreciation for all of the hard work that has gone into launching our evening cohort of the nursing program. We did not have the capacity to serve many exceptional students, and we've grown that capacity, and that has come as a direct result of your hard work and the leadership of Dean Boswell and the hard work of all of your colleagues. So thank you, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I wanted to present, first of all, some information so you can consider on why this program is so important to not only Weatherford College, but to the state of Texas and to the United States. When we look at supply versus needs, the demand for registered nurses is projected to outpace the supply every year through 2032. So that alone is pretty scary. I don't know about you guys, but that's pretty scary to me. The projected shortage by 2032, you will see that shortage of RNs is expected to increase from over 29,000 to 57,000 by 2032. And that's just in the state of Texas. And we have a pretty big state, don't we? So that's also very scary. When we look at nursing graduation trends, graduates from nursing education programs in 2015, there are approximately 10,999 per year. That's across the state of Texas. In year 2021, that grew to 14,960 students per year. When we look at the supply in 2020 to 2032, you can see where we're at. 233,968 was supply. Our demands between the 2 years, the demand right there, right there. The demand right there, from 263,000 just 2 years ago, well 3 years ago now, to 348,000. That's quite a bit. So you can see where we're going whenever we're looking at the nursing problem that we have. unmet demands of registered nurses by region in 2032. So we're pushing the years up a little. Some of us don't want to push the years up, but we have to look at the future where we're headed. In 2032, the Central Texas area, these are unmet demands, is going to be 19.8% short. If we look at West Texas, not too bad, 4.2% short. South Texas, 6.7% short. Rio Grande Valley, 27.2% short, and the most unmet demands is going to be in the Gulf Coast of Texas with 21.9% unmet. Those numbers are pretty frightening. So, Weatherford College, how are we going to come to the rescue, right? Because we know what's going on out there. When we graduate our students, we know because we are a community college that majority of them is going to stay here, right? But we also know that some of them is going to go elsewhere. We already know that. So, if we look at this, due to the lack of supply, this is where we come in. We're going to be heroes, okay? You already know nurses are heroes, right? You guys have heard that over and over. So this is where Weatherford College can come in and be the hero. If we look currently at our spring semester, we have, at the main campus, we have a day program. Now this day program, we bring in 40 students. And this is traditional ADN. Traditional ADN program means that they'll start, for instance, in the fall, well, we'll say spring. They'll start in the spring, they'll be off during the summer, they come back during the fall, come back in the spring, and then they graduate the following fall. So it's 4 semesters and they get summers off. So they get to go bathe on the beach, right? Wise County campus in the spring, they get the LVN to RN program. Now these are the students, of course, that are already LVNs and they want to come back for more, right? So this is the fast track program. This is the program where the students start in the spring semester at Wise County and they'll go spring, summer, fall, and then spring, and they graduate that next May. So you can see that they have opportunities, choices that they want to take. If we look at the summer semester, we bring on main campus days and we bring the LVN to RN program here. And that's that is a traditional program. Okay? When we bring in the LVN to RN programs, those are 20 students. When we bring in the day programs, those are 40 students. Fall semester, main campus days, we have the traditional, and then main campus evening weekends, this is fast track. They start in June, the summer semester, and they go the summer, and then they turn around and get about a week off, and they come right back in the fall. They come back in the spring. So they finish 3 semesters and they graduate. So that's what the fast track is. When we look at Wise County days, they get fast track. And in Wise County evening weekends, they get a that's their fast track program also. So in the fall is when we get a lot of students into our program. So when we look at how we're going to be the heroes, total applicants each semester. In the spring, this past spring, we had over 118 ADN applicants for 40 positions. So that we have good pickings, right? And then we had 35 for the LVN to RN program, where we only took 20 at the Wise County campus. If we look at the fall, we had 190 applicants for a total of 120 slots at both campuses. Because I told you the fall semester is when we get the most students in. So when we look right now, Total currently in the program, we have approximately 300 students going through our program. This is at one time. The fall, we graduated 104 students from the Wise County campus and the main campus. So you can figure if we graduate approximately 200 students a year, and then you calculate that come year 2032, we're going to have quite a few of our graduate nurses out there, right? They're going to be taking care of us. Many of them already do when we go to the hospital and stuff. So we are educating quality students when they leave our program. When we look at our faculty and clinical partners, full-time faculty, we have 19 have their master's degrees. 3 have their doctorates. So there's quality right there. Part-time, these are our adjuncts. We have approximately 26 adjuncts. Now, we don't use all of these adjuncts every semester. Depending on their specialty is when we use these adjuncts. So that's where we have them, and every one of them have master's degrees except 2, and they have their bachelor's working on their master's. So once again, we have our quality. And then clinical partners, we have over 20 clinical partners that our students go and do their clinicals at. And this grows. We are constantly looking for different instructors or different clinical partners. Our history of the evening program at the main campus. We have our second cohort will graduate in December of this year. So we've already graduated our first cohort of the evening weekend students. At Wise County, the first cohort there will graduate this December. Reasons for our program, okay? We know that life happens. We know that we would love to tell every student that comes to our program, hey, you can't work. But we also know there's such things as called bills, right? Life, kids. So these students have to work. So by doing the evening weekend program, it's 2 evenings a week, and then a clinical day, they get to still work their full-time job if they work in a doctor's office, if they work wherever, and or at the pizza place or wherever they work, they can still come and get their quality education from Weatherford College. That's why we have this evening program. Really, that evening program, we could even open up and take more than 20 because there is a need for it and there is a supply of people wanting to come in that program. The way we've been doing the evening program is once we choose the class, we send letters out to the students that say the first 20 of you that respond to us and say you want that evening program, you get that evening program. Majority of them want that evening program. So there is a big need for us to keep that program going. But right now, in current status, the evening weekend program at the main campus, we have 18 students out of 20. Once again, I said we're going to have quality students. Evening and weekend at Wise County, we have 17 out of 20 going right now. And these are really good students. Both cohorts, once again, will graduate in December. Any questions for me? Right here is a picture right here of the current evening program at Wise County. Don't they look awesome? Yes, sir.
I do have a question. I'm trying to understand the delta. You said we had 300 students at any given time,
Yes, sir.
but we have about 200 graduate per year. Where do we lose the 100?
We rotate them through. So at any given time, we have at least 300 in our program going through. So if we graduate a class, the next class is coming in to replace them. So it's just like a revolving door. It's like our wallets, right? We get money in and our money goes right back out. but we are being really successful. And that's what helped us with this grant, because our program grew. That allowed us to have more money from this grant. And there's room for more growth. We have the instructors, we have the facilities, wish we had more space, but we are getting there.
Thank you. Would
You're
you
welcome.
comment about the grant?
Yes, sir.
Would you comment on that?
The nursing shortage reduction grant, there, over the years, have been as many as 3 pots of money. They've restructured it, moved it to a different department in Austin, and what we base it on now is the graduates. So every year, if you have more graduates, you get money. If you have less graduates, you get no money. You have the same, you don't get money. So we look at, it's kind of a win-win, because we use that money for stipends for our faculty to have competitive salaries in the market. We also used, last year, we had gotten a big chunk of money from colleges that overestimated and got money taken away from them. We were able to buy all of the students in both levels of the nursing program, their textbooks, their ebooks, with this money that we received from the grant. So it's a real simple thing. You take more students, that's not the answer. You graduate more. So they're looking, usually, early on it was how many can you take?
Yes.
Well, then you didn't, maybe half of them didn't graduate. So now it's looking at graduates. So it's just a very simple process. We just more in, the same, more out, and then we can get some of that money from the nursing shortage reduction grant out of Austin.
Is there a ballpark number of how many dollars we're talking about on an annual
How much money
basis?
was assigned to
Yeah.
that grant total? Yes, it was about $9 million. They changed how it's funded. They sent out a questionnaire and asked the question, do you think universities should get more money than community colleges? Well, I guess you can imagine what my response might be to those folks is, we have to hire master's prepared faculty and doctoral prepared faculty, just like the university. So, no, I don't think they should get more, but it turned out that they get, instead of just throwing everybody in there in the pot and then whoever has the most gets the money, they split the pot in half. So half goes to community colleges, half goes to universities. I guess they were not happy with the way things were being distributed. So that's how they changed it in the state of Texas. So the pot's smaller, but we didn't have that many more. We got the $145,000. So we're used to getting about $300,000. So we're trying to rev up our evening programs, which is, as she mentioned, has been an extraordinary opportunity for our students. So as we offer and open more spots in the evening program, which is about the only program we have spots that we can put people because of this, we're kind of restricted in size here too in our classrooms. So we're really excited about developing and marketing and promoting that evening and weekend program.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, sir.
In any program like this, anything like this happening, there's the dollar somewhere in there. And my question is, though the general society is paying for this in time, paying the professionals and so on, but has any of the medical professional associations stepped forward to make commitments for supporting the salaries of increased nursing faculty or cadre?
Recommendations are always.
They step up somewhat. Some of the ways that they are looking at it right now is they're offering money to pay back faculty for their student debt. So they're like their student loans. As a matter of fact, I was getting those all the time, and I just forwarded them to one of our faculty members that has a student loan. And I told her, apply for this, because there's a portion of that money set aside that can help them pay for their tuition, or their, what they pay for going to college. But as far as help paying directly to the college to help the faculty,
I'm really talking about professional support, making some commitment. Have you heard any stirrings about making professional support for nurses salaries in the future, stepping forward and supporting.
Our national organization is always moving that direction, but again, it depends on where they're working and what kind of resources hospitals have. I know at our hospital, we're trying to be competitive in raising our salaries to be competitive with the Metroplex, so people are going to go to the Metroplex and work. But the national organizations are always out there lobbying for increased money. But when it all rolls down, it comes down to where you're working and how much money they have and what they can give you as far as salary.
Anything else for these two ladies? Dr. Starlin, Dr. Boswell, thank you so much. Appreciate your report. Appreciate what you're doing. I'd like to go back to, as I was looking through the agenda, I noticed on agenda item 6A, a generous gift from Paul Wingo and Brina Valencia, the Upward Bound program and the tour that was taken. And so I'd like to go back and put some recognition on that and what was done there and ask if you, Dr. T and Mr. Indy, if you could take a couple of minutes and tell us what that involved. And because to me, when we get generous gifts, we're very fortunate to have that. So either one, each of you, just fill us in a little bit on that.
I was on the trip.
Okay.
So Paul Wingo is a lawyer from Dallas. He's alumni of Weatherford College, former student body president, and the former theater major. So Paul went to school here and liked Weatherford College and contacted us a few years ago and said, I want to help. And he's provided his wife, Brina Valencia, have provided gifts for the drama department. They were both guest speakers for the Upward Bound program. The Upward Bound program is a type trio program designed to facilitate and foster college completion among at-risk student populations, lower SES, first-generation populations. Brina and Paul came to speak with that group a few months ago. Paul is known because he's a lawyer from Dallas. Brina is a voiceover artist who is the most prominent figure in one of the most famous games that most of our students play, and most of you wouldn't know who she was, but they do.
What game is that?
I think it's called Borderlands.
Okay.
And Brina is in Borderlands 1, 2, 3, 4, and whatever else they do. So when they found out who Brina was, they told Paul to hush. Which is an amazing
She
fact.
became the star.
Because Paul's like me. But when they spoke with the students, they said they wanted to help. Christine Endy is the program director for that. She wanted to take some students to see colleges and universities and others, because most of these students haven't been out of Palo Pinto County or Wise County, wherever they're from. Paul said, let me send you $1,000 or so and see if I can help. And as I understand it, you got the check and called him and said, there are too many zeros on the check.
Yes.
And he said, no, they're not. That's what I intended.
Right.
So the two of them underwrote a trip. We toured the University of Houston, which was wonderful for them to see an urban university. We toured the Johnson Space Center. Most of them had never seen anything like it. I was with a group of students who were just in awe and trying to understand how that shuttle flew on the back of that Boeing jet. And we toured the virtual King Tut exhibition along with the rest of the Natural History Museum. Most of the students had never been in a museum. And we did a ghost tour around the park in Houston on the evening. So they had a full agenda. These are students wonderful young people who don't necessarily know how to operate in the college and university environment. And everything we can do to acclimate them and to let them know that they are part of that world and they are a vital part of that world is very, very important. And Paul and Brina were thrilled to do it. And we've got great pictures to send back to them and say thank you. And so that's the trip.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Indy. That's so nice. And appreciate that type of opportunity for those kiddos. I'm sure they really enjoyed it.
Thanks for asking.
You bet. Sorry I didn't ask earlier. And then the other note, on December 28th, I'd like to recognize that Gwen Crabtree opened up the testing center in the middle of the Christmas break so that 14 Fire Academy students could take their certification exam. And I know that must have been very important to those people, and I really appreciate that. That's the kind of thing you get at Weatherford College, isn't it? Okay, any questions or comments about that? I'm sorry to delay a little bit. Moving into the agenda, we'll go to agenda item number 7, future agenda items or meetings, a budget amendment, in particular, President Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we will bring, this Dr. Cantrell next month will be bringing you our normal budget amendment for your consideration, and that is all we have for the future meeting.
Dr. Cantrell, you need to say anything in that regard?
No, sir.
Okay,
We
thank
just
you, ma'am.
like to wait till this time, till after we've had the second semester, the spring semester to start. See where we
Absolutely,
stand
that's great.
the rest of the year.
Any questions or comments about that? If not, we'll go to agenda item number 8, announcements. Mr. Baker?
Yes, sir, thank you. Several events to tell you about briefly. Tomorrow, right here in this room, we will be hosting the president from the University of Texas at Arlington, Jennifer Cowley. She will be here with President Farmer to sign an articulation agreement, a historic articulation agreement that will benefit students in one of our bachelor's degree programs. That's at 1 o'clock, and the public's invited. We'd love to have you all here, right here in this room tomorrow afternoon. Basketball. We are now headed to conference play. Our teams are headed to Waco this Saturday for the first conference games of the year. There are 2 home conference dates next week, Wednesday and Saturday, for those very important matchups. And then coming up on February the 3rd, it's always a wonderful event, the Jack Harvey Academy of Exemplary Teachers. That will also be in this room for the first time. That is, as I said, February the 3rd, and you're invited to that as well. That's all I have.
Mr. Baker, were you old enough to know Jack Harvey?
No, sir, I was not. I did not get to meet him.
I won't ask you, Mr. Pearl. All right, we will go to agenda item number 9, closed session. So that means we will end the open session at this time, and in about 3 minutes assemble back for our closed session to take up the agenda items A, B, C as are indicated in. Thank you very much. everybody's assembled, and we've been in closed session since we adjourned the public session. It's now, by my watch, 4:02, and so we will reconvene the public session and get back on the agenda. And so going to agenda item number 10, consideration of possible action, real property. And I'd ask Mr. Curley to flesh that one out to see what we're talking about there. Are we talking about the...
Okay, we have a building on the Carter property that has been inquired into in connection with becoming a historical monument. It needs some immediate attention. It's my understanding that the Historical Society has offered to put some cover on the roof to weather it in, and would recommend that we authorize them to make us a proposal about how to go about it, and perhaps in that proposal give us some information what the implications would be for having this become a historical monument.
Okay, since we're into that matter, I'd ask, and Mr. Bill Warren is here today. Mr. Warren, would you like to stand up and kind of refresh our memories about what this situation is and what it's about and what needs to be done? I think you mentioned that in your initial presentation. And in that presentation, I recollect that you said that the roof was not intact, certain parts, and need to be repaired at some point to minimize the damage. So could you go take that up again and reintroduce yourself and make sure everybody understands where we are?
My name is Bill Warren, and I'm with the Parker County Historical Commission. And the DeBresson Stable was brought to our attention here fairly recently, and I was able to go out, and the young lady who was with me here earlier, she and I have visited the stable along with another couple of other folks on that. And it is an incredible historical monument in its own right. I did a little presentation, if you recall, on it at the last meeting here, that it was built by a Frenchman, for a Frenchman, Count, who came here and was selling thoroughbred trotting horses here in Parker County for a while, that caused the stable to be built. The walls, the building is incredibly sound. The exterior walls are 18 inches thick on that building, the interior walls, and it's all stone. But as you mentioned, Mr. Smith, some of the tin, a little bit of the tin on the roofing has just blown off because of the age of the building. And as a first step toward this, we would like to, I can't remember that, to get the roof covered in so we don't have rainwater coming in the building anymore. And then ask somebody to come out and give us a bid on what it would cost to restore the building. With the roof line on it, there's some rotted wood just because it's been open for so long on the roof line, to clean it out and to make it a property that you could actually walk into and go see again. Longer range, we would like to ask for permission to have it declared a registered historical landmark, which is a type of marker that the Texas Historical Commission gives to buildings. And then also even longer range, would like somehow or other to see how it might be incorporated in the academic features of Weatherford College, whether it's in the geological realm just because of of where the building is and the age of the building and the history of the building, whether it has something to do with I'm sorry, words are leaving me at this age of my life, with the agricultural activities of Weatherford College, or even as something that could be used from a historical standpoint with the school's history programs. So that's way down the road, but the first is to stabilize the building and to get it restored, and then hopefully next the marker for it, and then later on the curriculum.
So Bill, under the circumstances we have right now, once you go out and find out what the cost of that repair is gonna be, and you find out what that's gonna cost, how would the cost be, how are you gonna deal with that? Who's gonna pay the cost, and can you flesh that out a little bit?
Well, the preliminary discussions that we have had are to try to get a 501c, a tax exempt organization. I don't want to speak in IRS terms. Only some of us understand those. But anyway, to get a tax exempt organization to be the lead organization through which to channel funds, because then the donors could take a tax exemption on their income tax returns or something like that. That organization, since they would hold the money, would have to be the contracting party for any contractor who would come work on that. We've already had some people express interest in donating money toward that project. I don't, at this point, have any idea of what it would cost. I have a guess just from work done on my home, which is over 100 years old, but I don't want to say anything until I actually get something from somebody who knows what they're actually talking about. So I have a young man. In fact, he's working on the DOS log cabins right now. He's born, raised in the Parker County area. He's also done the log cabins out at Millsap, the log cabin out at Millsap, and he's currently working on the governor's mansion, restoring the porch on that. And if you go by and look at that, he's done an incredible job for that. So he has a huge appreciation for history, and I think that he would be the person I would trust to actually work on the building.
And so when we get into it a little bit farther and we're looking at liability and coverage in situations where there might be damage inflicted or there might be people that are injured or whatever, do you have any ideas about how that would be needed to be dealt with?
I know that a contractor can have liability insurance. I don't know the particulars. I guess he's probably got that through what he's working on the DOS. I don't know that in particular.
Well, that would be like a builder's risk policy or
Right.
whatever, but, does the Historical Society have any ownership in it long-term?
No.
Not at all?
No. It's a historical commission.
Commission, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
there is a historical society also.
Okay.
A lot of people get those mixed up, but we're a separate organization from them, yes. But no, we don't have any ownership.
And as far as the
interest in it.
501(c), we would not be transferring ownership of the
No,
building
no,
to
no,
that.
no, no,
It's
no.
only
Simply
for
be a contracting
support
vehicle.
of Weatherford College's whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the timeline you're looking at here, Bill, as far as you can tell?
Well, first of all, got to get an idea of what the cost is going to be. Fundraising is always a challenge. I don't know if that's going to take 6 months or if that's going to take a year, depending upon what it is. In the meantime, I would like to go on and pursue the historical marker for that. The period to file for a historical marker opens March the 1st, and it goes until, I think it's either May the 1st or the middle of May. First of all, an application has to be filed with the Texas Historical Commission. They will take until January or February of next year to make a decision on whether or not they will approve the marker. And then it generally will take about another year or year and a half before the marker goes to the foundry and would come here. So we're talking a good 2-year, maybe even more than a 2-year process if we can file in March of this year.
Now, does that application need to be made by the college, or does it need to be made by the historical commission?
The application has to go, according to the state rules, the application has to go through the Parker County Historical Commission, and they are the ones who approve it and forward it to the Texas Historical Commission. That can be written up. In fact, I've already started doing some research on the building itself. It has a fascinating history that presented of the people who've owned that property over the years here in Parker County. And so I've already started that process, so I will be more than glad to write that up and share the application with you all before I give it to the to the Parker County Historical Commission, if you all would like to look at that.
Okay.
The cost of one of those is about $1,800, is it not?
Yes, sir. It's the marker itself is There's a $100 application fee, and then if it's accepted, then it's $1,800, the current price, unless they've gone up. They won't tell us until March the 1st what the
Probably
current
2
price is.
years. And who's going to pay that $1,800?
Either the Historical Commission can make grants for 50% of the cost of things. So if the 501c3 that will collect the money, if they pay for half of it, then the Historical Commission will pay for half of it.
Maybe the Historic Society would come up with the other half.
They're the organization that I'm looking at that hopefully will be the funding group.
So Bill, does the designation attach to the building and the land, or just to the building, or?
The designation would be for the building. The way the application, it asks in the application itself, are there other historic buildings on the property? Are you trying to designate any of them, yes or no? And so they just want to know, what are we talking about? So that's in the application itself. My feeling is that I only want to talk about the stable, not any of the other buildings that are on the property.
And what about the real estate, though? That's what I was also talking about. Is that a commitment that you also, the ground that it's sitting on is also part of what the designation involves?
Yes, the ground would be, what it's sitting on would be part of the designation. Again, there's no ownership change in any of this.
Right.
Ownership is not a question in any of this at all.
But what kind of an obligation goes with the designation once it's in place?
The only thing with the designation is, of course, that we all hope that the building is continued to be maintained, but there's no financial responsibility attached to having a historical marker on the property. As I did mention the last time, the Registered Texas Historical Landmark provides a little bit more protection over destruction of the building, because if people are vigilant, and something is going to happen to the building, then the Historical Commission could ask the Texas Historical Commission to say, hey, can you help us with arguments in trying to preserve this building? That doesn't mean that even with that protection, it is possible that the building could still be taken down and moved.
Taken down and moved? Could it be demolished?
It could be moved, demolished, whatever it is.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I've learned this. The historian that I am, it makes me pain to say these things, but it doesn't provide an absolute commitment on anybody's part that you have to keep that building up forever and ever and ever, amen. So it allows a little more time to stop and think about what's going to happen to the building, rather than just bulldozing it immediately.
Okay. Any questions or comments for?
Back on the roof for a moment, Mr. Warren. Your initial remark was there's a little bit of tin that has deteriorated and needs immediate repair.
Well, it's blown off completely.
Okay. Are you here to ask for, are you going to be asking for a proposal to do this patch job repair versus I'm going to go out and get a bid to re-roof this property? Which one of those two are we talking about right now? I know eventually it's the second, but
Yeah.
right now, what are we talking about today?
Well, the first thing is to cover in the building so it doesn't have any more water coming into it, to just stop the damage that occurs just because of rainwater coming in all the time.
So that's what we're talking
That's
about
what we're
today
talking about
for a
right now.
proposal.
And then I'm going to have to get a quote first, because I don't know what our fundraising requirements are going to be. So I need to get an idea of what it's going to cost to do the building, and then if you all would like me to come back with that proposal for you all, then I'll be glad to do that. But again, that would be the next step, would be the fundraising aspects of it, and then have a contractor do the work on the building. There's on the flooring on the second floor in the hayloft, there are a couple of little places where the rainwater has come in and has rotted out some of the boards. The building is very, very stable. but just because of the age and the amount of water that's come through over the years, there are a couple of small holes in the flooring of that. It's amazing that the rot hasn't even spread even further in some of that. But other than that, that's the only thing that is really damaged on the second floor is just a couple of small holes where the water has come through. So drying the building in is the first step, finding out what the cost is going to be, and then have a contractor do the work to restore the building. That would include the roof as well as the patching of the few holes that are on the second floor. The first floors, they're either dirt or they're old planks, and they're all in perfect condition. The doors, there are still 3 Dutch doors that are original to the building. You can see the original hammered ironwork of the hinges that are on the doors, and those would have to be replaced just because they're literally falling apart. They've been exposed to the weather for 133 years. I should last so long in that good of a condition, but so those would have to be replaced. The young man that I was talking about, I'm sure he would love to use the original hardware in replacing the doors.
Okay. Other questions?
Only the walls could talk.
That's right. So, do me a favor now, and if you wanted this board to make a motion, can you tell someone who's going to write this down what that motion would be so that we could accomplish the first steps and what you feel like we need to do or needs to be done regarding the building? So what you're going to be doing is kind of helping me out with a motion to authorize you to take the steps to dry it in and do all those different things.
Well, I guess I would ask first, how much do you want to, what are the steps that you all would like to see? I've mentioned about drying in the roof.
Okay,
is the first-
I think that's
is
probably the first
one.
thing, yeah.
Either concurrently or, March the 1st is coming up here rather quickly, about the authorization for the type of historical marker. And then the third one, I understand, is probably going to be a little more off to the future about actually contracting with someone through a third organization to do the work. So would the board want to tackle 1 or 2 or 3 of those things?
Today, since I'm doing the talking right now, I would ask you to let's accomplish the first thing, which would be to try to get the water,
Okay.
the rainwater and all that coming in, and just start that, and whatever the process needs to be done that doesn't involve the, I guess it would be not obligating the college to provide any of the money to do that. And
I would just say something along the lines of authorizing the Historical Commission to pursue drying in, I think that is a correct term in the building trade, into drying in the Debrecen stable on the Weatherford College land at B.B. Fielder and South Main.
Dr. Cantrell, do you have something to offer?
Could we word it some way where it's an estimate of the dollar amount that it would be to come back and discuss? Because I think we need to research right now, it's college property. Can we really allow someone else to come in and repair it? I don't know. I mean, it very well may
I think that's fair,
be.
don't you, Bill?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Sure. All right, that's fine.
Now, I guess another
We'll work together very closely.
splitting hairs here is just drying in the building different from the renovation work itself. Would you see it?
You know,
I think you have a
Well,
point just because there's an urgency to get that done
I
and
think,
not wait.
I think, depending on what we're discussing of drying it in, I mean, are we covering the part that has the hole now, or the whole, you're talking about the whole thing?
What this young man has done with the log post office in Millsap, he's put a huge tarp over the top of the building to cover it in. So I perceive at this point that that's basically
That's
what we're
what we
talking
did. I
about,
mean,
is
that's-
putting something over to keep the rain from coming in. It's a very impermanent thing,
And
like
that
a
would-
tarp.
That would buy us some time, I think that's good to go ahead.
It's,
but
it's
the
our
college-
building.
the
Why
college
couldn't
could
the
do it.
college do this?
I think we could. I think we could go
That
about
just seems
securing
to be
it. And
pretty-
if you wanted to
Pretty
give
basic.
advisement of how you would think it would need to be done or something like that at this point to just, we want to salvage it. There's no doubt about it. It's just that
Yeah.
we've got to do the legal.
Yeah, well, to me, it's a very special
Oh, I agree.
building, and I definitely wouldn't want the work done in a way that it would affect the authenticity of the structure and replicate, and bring it into the way ultimately it needs to be refurbished and repaired so that it's historically accurate. But to start off, we just got to stop the rain.
Right. And
You willing to take that on, Bill, in some way with the
Weather it in.
why don't you
Weather
work
it
with
in.
us and I mean, I see that we could pay for that right now, just putting a tarp on it. That's what it
Well,
is.
and this young man, he did not charge the Millsap Heritage Society to
Okay.
just dry it in with a tarp on it. So, I mean, I could ask him if he would just put one up there.
Okay. Do you think
Mr.
you
Curley, are we in any kind of competitive bidding problem here?
That's
For
what I'm
a quick,
concerned that
for
we
a
might
quick job like this, kind of an emergency
I mean,
situation?
it might be that, long-term, that the competitive bids are drawn up so that it has to be somebody that's worked with historical buildings to know the absolute Ts. It's writing the specs for
Right,
something like that.
long-term, but I'm just
Uh-huh.
talking about doing what we've been discussing. Can't we go forward with doing that ourselves?
Yes, we certainly can maintain.
With Mr. Warren's input on how to try to get it properly
Maintain
done.
Yeah, right.
and repair any of the facilities.
Yeah.
And so that falls within the scope of reasonably maintaining, what we own. And then we can most likely take up the issue of our intention to preserve that and to pursue whatever is reasonable for the preservation of that building.
I think that's
And
very
then
reasonable.
from there, we can work with Bill and get some of this stuff done.
Seems to me to be the fastest answer to solving the weather problem
Absolutely.
that we have.
It's a good way to do it.
I think, Dan, do you think we should sort of declare emergency, that we allow that to take place to preserve it?
If it's going to.
So we
it's
won't
probably-
have to
I don't know
worry
what-
about-
What the cost is going to be. It may be
It may be,
$5,000 or something
might not
like
be
that.
much, but you can spend if it's declared like an emergency or whatever. I don't think it'll be that.
I think
Costly.
just putting a tarp over the top of the building, and it would have to be, and I know in a couple of places, because there's some of the what do you call it, the crown molding is not the right word, the cap on the roof, I know that there are a couple of places that would need to be done. If it would cost more than $1,000 just for tarps, I would be surprised.
Okay, my motion then, at this point, and I appreciate your help today and coming back again.
Thank
It's an interest to work with.
My motion would be that we take the steps to dry in this, what's the name of this building? I've
DeBresson.
Spell it.
Stable.
spelled the depression.
DeBresson.
Depression.
Paul DeBresson was the gentleman,
Okay.
the count that used the stable, had the stable built and used it.
Regarding the depression stable to authorize Weatherford College or to make an expenditure to dry the depression stable in
Maybe an emergency expenditure.
in an emergency, declare an emergency and in that fashion, dry the building in, and to accept the Parker County Historical Commission's assistance in that project, and to do that as soon as possible.
Okay.
And that's my motion.
So I make that motion.
You make the motion or you second it?
Well, I guess I'll second it.
Well, you can make it then if somebody wants to second it.
No, I second it. You did a great job.
All right. Motion second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Should we put a financial cap on that, do you think? Is that required?
That's fine with me. I'm just, I'm struggling here. I'm struggling. How much of a
You think
financial?
it's necessary, Dan? Do we need to put a dollar amount cap on the motion?
I think that within the regulations that we already have, we can do emergency activities. So I think we don't need to do that.
But as far as knowing when I might need to come back to you, I mean, if they came back and it's gonna be 600,000, but if it's a very minor, I don't think there's.
Not exceed 600.
If it's under a bidding, it may be under the bidding law. I mean, it will be if it's only $1,000 or something like that. 5,000, it'd be under, or we
That'll
wouldn't
be
even have to
great,
get
whatever.
bids.
Well, you may just say in accordance with our current regulations concerning emergency expenditures.
That's
And
good.
That's the next part of that motion that I didn't get to. And so that's my motion. Anybody can remember what that is? All in favor? We've got a motion second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
That looks unanimous to me.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate taking the first
Thank you,
step
Mr.
here.
Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Absolutely.
Chat about how this.
Mhm.
You'll get my resignation.
Okay.
You're about to get my resignation, so that's okay. I've enjoyed it.
I was going to ask if it's the county.
Great.
Over there with the county, it's $5,000.
But I have the funds that I can go ahead and do it, so we don't have to worry about that.
So now then, we'll move to agenda item number 11, consideration, possible action, appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee. And Mr. Curley, there's nothing on agenda item number 11?
Number 11, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. And that moves us to number 12, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a
So
motion.
moved.
Several motions. Second on that?
Second.
All in favor, say, raise your right hand. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.